As Connie told us earlier, all are welcome here, regardless of your identity or particular theological beliefs. So I feel safe saying with confidence, I am not a cat person. I am a dog person. I don't actively dislike cats. They're fine, I guess. Christine Slocum, also not a cat person, tells a story about accidentally becoming the caretaker for a whole community of cats in Buffalo, New York, where she was living. There was a vacant house next door. This is a pretty common occurrence in Buffalo, she says. A window had been broken out and all sorts of critters started making their home there. The previous owner of the house that Christine moved into apparently had taken it upon herself to feed the feral neighbor cats from the vacant house. Christine knew better. She loved birds, and feral cats are a huge problem for native songbird populations. She would never have fed these vicious killers. But then one day she noticed two kittens frolicking in her yard. While they were cute, it dawned on her that the cat colony would eventually colonize the whole block if something wasn't done. So she got in touch with a humane program to trap, neuter, vaccinate, and release cats. Before she knew it, there she was, not a cat person to begin with, trying to compassionately trap feral cats. That meant borrowing these traps and taking time off work for appointments and going to where they lived to care for them. Getting them to go into the cages meant giving them food and water. She noticed some started hanging around her more. And sure enough, she had become the caretaker of this community. Christine Slocum writes, part of being in community is noticing what's needed. Being a part of community is doing what is necessary but unclaimed. Being part of a community means being willing to own what might not be easy or comfortable. I also learned that being part of a community means being willing to own one's power, which required me to stretch beyond what I thought I'd be willing to do. Here, in this congregation, there are so many people who live out their generosity that it is honestly overwhelming to me at times. That includes both financial generosity and gifts of time, talent, compassion, casseroles, patience, and inspiration. You have given of yourself in ways that are astounding. When I first read today's reading about the longshoreman turned church custodian, I was brought to tears. Not little glistening of the eye, I mean like tears. Because it reminded me so much of the generosity that I've experienced here. Now, I know there are several new faces today. This is very insider talk. I apologize, but it is a window into what this community is about. Each Sunday, you see the worship associates up here, and you see the greeters and the ushers on Sunday mornings. You don't see the AV team as much, but we at least thank them. Some of the people you may not see are Dave Weber and Susie Cassidy, our VP of Finance and Treasurer. And I don't say this to scare any would-be volunteers, but those are the most thankless, grinding volunteer positions in the whole organization. Thank you both. And Susie is with us online today on Zoom. And anyone else who has done that job before, because I know it's several of you. Another project you don't see as much is the monthly providing of dinners at the homeless shelter in Laguna Beach. Bruce Johnson and Dave Mendonca have organized and brought together hot meals for 40 people a couple of times each month for years, over 10 years, we realized. They rely on a team of people to contribute food, but these two keep everything organized, and they're the hub, ensuring that 40 people get a hot, satisfying dinner in what is otherwise a very difficult day. Also behind the scenes, Peggy and Cheryl continue to pick up young immigrants who have aged out of detention, ensuring that they have a safe next step in their journey. Scott and Bev have wrapped a small community of Afghan refugees with love and huge amounts of material and legal support. And Rona Henry has taken on really full-time advocacy work for affordable housing, all while drawing Tapestry's name into some really important places in Orange County. We do a decent job, I hope, of providing a solid worship experience on Sunday mornings. And all of that is on display. And I wish everyone knew how much good Tapestry volunteers are doing all over the place outside of Sunday mornings. In addition to the advocacy and keeping us fed and the lights on in the building, there are get well soon cards and group dinners, and there are rides to the doctor and casseroles and impromptu childcare when needed. I get credit sometimes because I'm up here on Sunday mornings, but the care that you provide for one another in this community is nothing short of amazing. This is a celebration of generosity, and that includes all of you. Every single person in this sanctuary or online showed up to be part of a community. And one of the main reasons that people show up for any congregation is community. That's something that a few leaders cannot do without everyone's help, without everyone showing up. You tend to be very curious people, readers, listeners of podcasts. Many of us also have spiritual practices as seekers, pursuing deeper connections. Being here is very different, though, from listening to a podcast or doing your daily solo spiritual practice. Being here, even if you are not a social butterfly, even if you're one of the introverts who arrives during the prelude and scurries off to their car as fast as possible, your being here contributes to this community of loving hearts. Those participating online get to view with other people, live, reacting in the chat box as things happen. Even if you're in your pajamas off camera, you know that you're not alone. You're being here or at home, you know that you're not alone. And your presence lets others know that they are not alone. In their struggle and their joy, their seeking and their deep conviction, showing up, you let people know that they are not alone. And friends, that is invaluable. A couple of months ago, I met with Ben for the first time here at Tapestry. He's a friend of Cheryl's who's seeking asylum here from Angola. We were talking a little bit about Tapestry and what we believe. And finally, he asked, what does it mean, Tapestry? English is not Ben's first language. It's his fourth or fifth. I tried to explain in my very limited French to describe what a tapestry is literally. He understood a tapestry as a piece of fabric art and proceeded to ask why. And I described the metaphor of different threads coming together, different people weaving together to create something beautiful. Tapestry is a great name for a congregation, especially for today when we're celebrating generosity. Today, though, I want to expand that metaphor a little bit. I invite us to expand and to think of a bigger context. Our lovely little tapestry of individuals showing up doesn't exist in a vacuum. While it is special, this may be hard to hear, while it is special, it is not unique. I believe that our beautiful community hangs amidst many, many other communities of generous human beings supporting one another. I like to think that our tapestry is more like one little patch in a much bigger quilt that stretches in all directions. It certainly stretches to long before most of us arrived here. It's a hard thing to remember when we have worked hard to make a contribution, when we've welcomed others, when we've settled in. We forget that each one of us is a guest at this feast laid out before us. We might even say, this is not your church. This is not my church. Nor does it belong to any other person. This congregation is here to be the embodiment of our shared values, an embodiment of hope and love, and we are all guests here, called to make room for whoever else wants to join the feast. Talking about that type of community, our former UUA president, Reverend John Burens, writes, "It's about having the faith that we can together feed the many who are hungry. Because just like Jesus is said to have fed 5,000 with 2 fishes and a few loaves of bread, with plenty left over, we need to operate out of an awareness of abundance, not a model of scarcity." That story is probably one of the few that most of us are familiar with from the Bible. It's said that having just a couple of fish and a few loaves of bread, Jesus fed 5,000 people. The interesting piece about that miracle, though, is that it's maybe the only one that Jesus doesn't conduct himself. He hands off these fish and these loaves of bread. But the miracle is created by the power of community sharing together. It's only after passing all of these few loaves of bread and these fish throughout this giant crowd, only after sharing do they realize there's way more than enough, actually piles of leftovers. In many ways, our community is a story of loaves and fishes. I've honestly seen people's lives changed here, perhaps even saved. I've seen life-changing relationships occur. It's a table of abundance. And the truth is, we are all guests at this table. No single person made this occur. No single person ever makes community happen. We're all guests, and what's more, none of us did anything special to earn our invitation. The door was open, and we found our way in. Not because of some great talent or skill, not because we paid the price for admission. We were offered a seat just for walking through the door. Someone made room for us at that table, and there are people who showed up last Sunday for the first time. There will be people who show up next Sunday for the first time. It's our job to keep the lights on, to keep the potluck plentiful, and to welcome them when they finally come to our doors. In some ways, this is a big pep rally. I get that. What I've been describing to you is also how we embody our faith. You see, we could never afford to pay directly for all that happens here at Tapestry. In traditional theological language, some might call that grace. Sometimes in life, a lot of times in life, there is more goodness than we could ever possibly earn. Whether that's in the beauty of nature all around us or in the like we celebrate last week, or in the deep compassion of our neighbors, or the love and support of this gathered community, there are some things in life that we just can't put a price tag on. They're part of the bounty and the goodness of this universe. We're doing our best here to embody universalism, that ancient conviction that love wins and that we are all in this together. Generosity is interwoven with love and how we understand ourselves and others. Those who keep and guard and hoard, we all do this sometimes, aren't keeping, guarding, and hoarding of themselves so much as they are trying desperately to hold on to their system of reality and what they assume themselves to be. They mistakenly, and let's be honest, we all mistakenly sometimes misunderstand ourselves as independent, self-sufficient individuals. But in our giving, we practice living into a different reality. In our giving, we are living into our faith. We're acting as if we fully believed what we claim, that we and every other person who walks through these doors and those who have yet to make it here is a person of inherent worth and dignity, worthy of our compassion and support. And we're practicing understanding ourselves as an interdependent web of all existence. I am so grateful to be among folks who show me every week exactly what that means. Amen.